So now that we have our form set with the change handlers, we need to handle the submission. All right, now there's a few ways we can submit. We could add an on submit and do it that way, or we could just simply add an action and a method to the form tag, which is the route that I'm going to take in this video, in this form. So let's come down to the form tag, and let's add to that an action, and for that we're going to set that to /API/properties. We're using RESTful routes, so basically we'll make a post request to API/properties, and that will be to create a new property. And then we want the method, so the method is going to be post. Okay, and then since there's an image field, we need to add an enc type, and we're going to set that to multipart / and then form dash data. That will allow us to upload an image or images. Okay, now for the route, we're going to go to our app/API/properties, and we already have a route.js here with a get. Okay, now what we need to do is just add a post. So let's say export const post, set that to an asynchronous function. Okay, and then let's do a try catch here. And for now, I just want to send a successful response. I'm not going to deal with the form data just yet. I just want to return a new response. And remember, that takes in whatever we want to send back. And I'm just going to send a JSON message. So I'll say JSON.stringify. And then in here, let's just put an object and say message and success. Okay, and then the second argument, so we want to go outside of JSON stringify. Second will be an object with the status, which is going to be a 200. And then down here, let's return new response. And for this, we'll just say failed to add property. And the status for that is going to be 500. So let's just see if that actually works. So I'm going to open up my network tab, and then I already have all the required fields are filled in, so we don't really have to do anything. And then we'll click add property, and you can see it redirects us here. We get message success. So I mean, I guess we didn't really have to look in the console, but I mean in the network tab. But yeah, so that's working. Now, what we'll do is get the form data, and there's quite a few ways to do this. We can actually use the form data method. So in the try, let's say const form data, and set that to await, and then that request object, which should be coming in right here. So here we want to say request, and then dot form data. And then let's do a console log, because now we should be able to do form data and then dot get, and then whatever the name of the field we want. So in this case, name. So now if I submit this, the listing name is test property. If I click add property and we look down here in the server, you see test property. Okay? And remember, whatever you log here, it's not going to show in the browser, it's going to show in the terminal in the server. So I basically want to build an object to submit to the database that has all the fields and set them to, form data.get. Now there's two things that are out of the ordinary, and that's the amenities and the images, because those are arrays. You can have multiple amenities and multiple images. So let's handle those before we build our main object. So let's say access all values from amenities and images. So we'll create a variable called amenities, And let's set that to form data. Now, since it's an array, instead of just using .get, we're going to use get all. Okay, so we'll say get all and then pass in amenities. And then for the images, we're going to do kind of the same thing. So I can just copy that down. Let's change that to images and change this to images. Now, even though images, it's going to be required that you upload an image, but I still want to take care of this situation. If you don't upload an image, then the form will actually send an empty string if no image is selected. And this will cause an error when we try to upload the image to Cloudinary. So what we're going to do is just filter. So we're going to add on to this dot filter and pass in a function here and say, pass in the image, and then we're going to say if image.name is not equal to an empty string. So that will filter it. If it's, I mean, like I said, they're going to be required. We have a required field. I believe we do. Let me see. So images, no, we don't actually. Let me just double check how I actually handled this. Yeah, so we do. Yeah, so it is required. I think I just left it off here just for testing. But yeah, let's add required here. Okay, now we can kind of test this out. Let's do a console log. I don't know why it's not working. Console.log of amenities and images. So we'll test this out. Let's come back to the form. And now since it's required, it'll give me this message if there's no image. So I'm going to select an image and amenities. Just check a couple of these off. Add property. And if we look in the console, you can see that we have the array of amenities, right? And then we have the image. So file, YouTube thumbnail. So that's working as expected. Now we want to just basically build a super object to submit to the database. And we're not going to submit to the database in this video because we still need to get the user, because remember, a user needs to be tied to the property. So let's just build the object and we'll log it. So let's say create property data object for database. So const, we'll call this property data, set it to an object. Okay, and then we're going to just get all the fields. So let's say type and set that to form data, and we want to get the type. Okay, and then we should have a comma there. And then we'll copy that down. Then we want name. Make sure you change that to name. And then let's see, we have description. Then we have location. Now location is an object, so in here is where we want to put the street. So street will be form data dot get, and don't forget to put location dot here. Okay, we'll copy that down. There's 4 of them, and this one here is going to be the city. City and state, and this one will be location, state, and then zip code. All right, and then after that location object, then we're going to have beds. Let's just copy one of these. So that'll be beds. Okay, then we have baths. And then we have square feet. Okay, then we have the actually the amenities. Amenities we can just put in like that because it's going to be this right here. So amenities, and then we have our rates object. And for that, I'm just going to paste these in. So weekly, monthly, and nightly. And then we have our seller info. So underneath rates, seller underscore info. And we have 3 fields there. We have the name, email, and phone. And then finally we have images, which we're just going to do that because that's going to ultimately come from here. Okay, and then for now, we're just going to do a console log. So let's say console log property data, and then we can try that out. So all the required stuff is there except for the image. So we do have to select an image now that I made it required. And we'll click Add Property. And then let's check out the console here. So type apartment, name, description. You know what? We should probably fill in all the fields just to test them out. So just throw whatever in here. We'll pick some of these amenities and then we'll say weekly 400, name, we'll say John Doe, phone, doesn't really matter. Okay, so now let's check out that submission and we get description, location, so all of those. It looks like zip code, did I not fill that out? Did I not fill zip? I think I missed zip code, so I'll just put something in there. Yeah, we'll do that in a second to test the zip code, but let's look at the rest of these. Beds, baths, square feet, amenities, so anything we check is in that array. Rates, looks good. Whatever we don't add for rates will be null. Seller info, okay, name is null. I know I put John Doe for that, so we'll have to check that out. Email, phone, and then the image. All right, so let's try the name, just put something in there, and I also want to try the zip code. Okay, add, whoop, we need to choose a file. Okay, now if we look at what was just submitted, okay, the zip code's working, but name is still null. Seller info name, I should say, not just the name prop. So let's take a look. Seller phone, so right here, seller name, so seller, oh, I have a period in there, so I want to get rid of that. All right, and then if I just reload the page, it should resubmit, and then we can check the name, seller info, still null. You know what, let's just resubmit. So I just want to put something in here. We'll say John. Add, and let's check it out. Okay, so now we have name John. All right, so it looks like all the fields are working. Whatever we submit in the form is getting put into this object. And yeah, in the next video, before we get to the database, saving to the database, we need to be able to get the user because we need to add them as the owner. Remember, there's an owner field in the property, so we'll do that next.